Croeso cynnes I chi gyd, a very warm welcome to the summer CDI Cymru Wales Forum. I have to laugh because those who just joined us now will not have heard the conversation we were having in the room backstage area going, yeah, it's grey and wet and miserable here too. But it's supposed to be summer, so at least hopefully it's summer coming if it's not here now. A very warm welcome to everybody today. We've got some great speakers again for you this afternoon. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and some new ones. So, Alex, I don't think you've been to one of our meetings. You say, oh my God, she talks to me. Alex, I don't think you've been to one of our forum meetings, have you? But you're here from Bangor University. A very warm welcome and best wishes to Sue, who's your fairly new academic registrar, isn't she? She's only been there a couple of months. Lovely to see some new faces. Julian, we've seen you before here, haven't we? Have we? I don't think we have. You've got a face that I've seen at other events, I think.
Right, okay. Oh, am I right? I'm
You're
Julian
live.
Lloyd. I'm from the Skills and Talent Programme of the Swansea Bay City Deal. So
Welcome.
Jane Lewis asked me to come along this afternoon.
Okay. So you're standing for Jane, are you?
I'm standing in for Jane this afternoon.
Brilliant. Okay.
And I'm doing a little
Thank you.
project on the side as well, which this should be very useful for.
Oh, excellent. Oh, well, if there's anything else we can help with that helps you with your project on the side, that sounds intriguing, doesn't it? I think we're here to help. And Harad, welcome to you as well. We've spoken on many occasions, and you've spoken, I know, with David quite a lot from City and Guilds. Welcome to you too. You've had a busy time from I've seen on LinkedIn recently, all sorts of awards and things going on. How are you today?
No, thank you. And I know I have been meaning to join one of these meetings quite a few times now, but with diary clashes, I just haven't been able to. So yeah, no, thank you for the invite. Glad to be here. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you, Carolyn. You okay?
So if I'm wincing, I'm going to disclose now on antibiotics, cocodamol and ibuprofen. I had a tooth out last week. It's now infected. Not the tooth, but I've got dry socket. Marvellous. If anybody's had it, you have my deepest sympathies. Enough of my health. Andy, how are you today? Welcome, Agarad. Andy, you're on. There we go. He's here.
Hi, yeah, very well. Thank you, Carol. I couldn't find my unmute button then.
Yeah, we all have that problem in life. Where's my mute gone? So whereabouts in the world are you today?
So I'm in Swansea. I'm from Gower College, Swansea, a part of the Advice and Guidance and Careers Advice and Guidance team.
Working with Jude.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Lovely. She said she couldn't come, but I'm glad she asked somebody else to come. And lurking in the shadows there without her camera on and on mute is Ifsa, who I'd like to welcome as well and introduce you to from the CDI. She's our DEI, EDI, whichever you prefer, Specialist Project Associate, so everything to do with equality, equity, diversity and inclusion. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what Ifsa's doing, just some events at the end. I'll flagging those as well. So warm welcome to you, Ifsa. You haven't been to Wales before? Yes, you did. You came and did that whole session for us at the forum, didn't you, with David a few seasons ago, because we've gone seasonal now. So I'm going to just do a little bit of a preamble and welcome as people wander in still. I just wanted to say a very warm welcome formally on behalf of the CDI, particularly in Wales. And obviously we've got David Morgan here, the Chief Exec, who's going to give a wave. There we go. So David's here as our Chief Exec. So any questions you've got about CDI and the profession generally across the UK, he is your man to ask today. For those of you who are new, this is something that we run it 3 times a year, so I do drop a season currently, but it's focused on 3 things: acting as a professional voice for the sector in Wales, sharing best practice and research, and we're going to be doing some of that research today, and some of that professional voice as well in that first presentation from Stephen shortly. Also then best practice from Chris, looking at the work that Careers Wales are doing, which is up for an award in June, we'll find out soon, and then looking at the work that the NHS has been doing to make sure that everybody has a voice and that careers can be promoted to all. Looking forward to that one. There has been a slight rejig of the agenda simply because Angie Oliver, the Deputy Director from NHS Wales, from Hugh, has been called in to see the Minister at 1:30. So hence why we've rejigged, and she'll be joining us a little later. So just by way of setting a little bit of the scene, it's been another interesting week in the news, hasn't it? Apparently we all should be feeling better off now with a reduction in the cost of living, the lowest for almost 3 years. Not sure my wallet's feeling that, but hopefully things will continue to go in the right direction as cost of electricity and so forth drops. Unfortunately, I'm not convinced that we're quite there yet. ITV have announced 200 job cuts. Kazoo has gone into administration. That was the British tech unicorn that we had. That's filed notice of bankruptcy, or administration, partly because of worries about the demand for electric cars and whether that's stalled or not. We've all seen in the news, in whichever part of the home nations you're in, pressures on universities. Numbers of them, I think I've read something like a third of all universities are teetering on the brink of not being financially viable. Aberdeen, particularly in the papers today. Last week, sadly, in my area, Aberystwyth, I'm in Ceredigion, they're talking about a black hole of 15 million that they need to sort out. Similarly, Swansea's had job cuts. Swansea Uni and the University of South Wales and Cardiff have all expressed concerns about financial issues. And we know that there's a lot around international students as a context and the challenges of, or opportunities of, graduate visas. All the links that I'm making reference to, by the way, George is going to very kindly share in the chat for me in a minute. So if we start to look at some of the sectors, then we start to see pressure on filmmaking, which apparently, according to an article in The Guardian yesterday, talks about filmmaking being only for the wealthiest as accessible routes disappear. Here in Wales, we've had the Welsh National Opera perform on the steps of the Senedd, trying to shift opinion on how funding has been cut for music in Wales. Very hard to say funding's been cut for music in Wales. That feels like we've had a bit of a cut to our souls. And I'm sure Angie's going to have a view on that as well, from NHS Wales being a musician by training. We have had some good news, though, because we've got Ulva in Anglesey being chosen as the new nuclear power station. So some jobs coming there when we're losing jobs in South Wales with the close down of steel in Port Talbot. A little interesting little gem I picked up when I was having a quick look today about staff staging their last stand against the bosses on working from home. This is an article in the Telegraph, which might account for some of the bias that you might be hearing in that. I don't know. You probably hear bias in all the news items I'm reporting on these days. But there's the entrance of a thing called coffee badging, where people will come in, have a cup of coffee and then disappear off again so they can go back to working from home, despite employers trying to pull them back in. Two final items closely linked to what we're talking about today, which is setting the strategy, finding the balance between digital delivery and working face-to-face to support all ages. Interesting piece about St Albans wanting to be the first smartphone-free city for under 14s and encouraging parents to go back to the more conventional older smartphones, the more brick-like things that don't have internet access, partly, I suspect, to do with well-being. And then the final thing I wanted to highlight was around apprenticeships as an important piece of research, which connects directly to the theme that we're talking about today, which is being used to show how apprenticeships for young people have been struggling and how we need to do some work on that. And all of the links to those are all included in the chat there for you now, apart from Ulva, which I will pop in for you now. Did I give you that one, Georgia? I don't think you've got that one, have you? You just get Ulva for anybody. Yeah, is that the Anglesey one? You got that? Brilliant. Okay, so some interesting things happening in the news. This is my point now, just to share slides with you to show you what where we are in terms of agenda and what we've got coming up. Where's my share screen gone? There we go. You'd think I'd know by now. Right, hold on. There we go. So a very warm welcome. There's our topic, which we've just talked about. And agenda today, we're going to kick off with just the last bit of apologies before we go into Stephen's piece. So I have some apologies from Kira Bomford, Careers Wales. She normally takes our minutes and does a star job. Unfortunately, she is not able to be here today because it's Learning in Work Week. But I'd like to welcome Liz Treadwell, who I hope is on here, who's actually going to be doing the minutes for us. David Pugh, Prime Cymru, Emma Verrier from Welsh Independent Schools Council, Martin Reid and Catherine Robson, Chief Exec from Adult Learning Wales, Sue Moss from Bangor University, who's got Alex here covering for her. And Alex, a warm welcome again. And Tanner from Call of the Wild, Janet Davis from Careers Wales, Gemma Hughes, Tia Truffle School, Caroline Whittington from Call of the Wild, Jane Bellis from University of Wales, Trinity St David, Tim Opie from the Welsh Local Government Association, Gaynor Williams from JCP, Jude Lyle from Gower College Swansea, referenced earlier, Lisa Myton from NTFW, and David Basden from Swansea Council. So that's the apologies formally done. Now that leads me to the point of being able to almost introduce our first speaker. So we've got Stephen up first talking about research and the role that we and what we're doing in the CDI around research and why it's important and the steps he's taking on a project he's leading. We'll then pop over to hear and see a practical example of some really high quality digital work that's going on. A short break, around about 10 minutes, and then we'll be that will give Angie enough time to be able to be out of her meeting with the minister and in with us. And then we'll go into the breakout rooms afterwards, pick up any final thoughts, and it'll be the end of the day. We may finish before 4:30. That is my aim. So I don't like to keep these meetings linger if they don't need to. So let's come on to our first speaker, which is, I'm delighted to welcome Stephen. Now, just as Stephen is popping his slides up, and we have Georgia in the background, who I also need to welcome from the CDI. It's her first virtual visit to Wales as well. Ashley has now moved on to Pastures New, and Georgia is now giving the support for us for these meetings. So thank you, Georgia. So Stephen is the research manager for the Career Development Institute. His first virtual visit to Wales. A very warm welcome, Stephen. Stephen's role is relatively new. He's working on various projects to promote the use of research and policy in practice. He's worked in and led both market and employee research areas for many years, including part of his training led him to do that. And he's worked in both the public and private sector in a range of different companies and organisations, from small tech startups right through to the National Trust. He says he's on a bit of a career transition himself in pursuing a long-term interest in careers-related research. A very warm welcome, Stephen. Are your slides sharing? No, I'm seeing myself. There we go. All right. Are you okay? When you're ready,
Yeah,
I'll be
wonderful.
handing over to you. There we go. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, can you see my slides? Okay, everybody.
Yes, all working.
Brilliant. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, firstly, many thanks, Carolyn, for the chance to talk to you today. And I'm just going to be talking through some research that we are currently embarking on at the CDI, which is a public research study looking at understanding the nation, the adult nation, and their experiences of careers and their wants and needs from career services. So we're doing this at the moment for, I suppose it raises the question of why public research and why we may be doing this. And I think we see a couple of challenges at the moment. Some challenges are sort of imposed on the sector, if you like, coming from externally. So we see trends, some of the trends you were talking about in some senses, Carolyn, technology, aging populations causing needs for sort of lifelong career guidance services, all those kind of needs that are changing externally, but also the kind of needs within the profession, where the profession has registered its view that they love the work they do, they see the value in it, but don't always feel particularly valued all the time. So we see those challenges, but we have some gaps in being able to identify the initiatives accurately on what we need to do to address those challenges. So there's one driver for the public research. So why now? Well, I think we're seeing a kind of conspiracy of trends and events, and have done for probably a few years, aren't we? So we obviously COVID was the kind of the grand one of these, but the sudden rise of AI, kind of migrant crisis. We're seeing all sorts of different things that are kind of stressing the career sector as it sits at the moment. And we're also seeing, if we believe pollsters, a kind of 99% probability of a change of government after 1.5 decades at some point, maybe later this year. So an imminent change means an imminent opportunity for the sector to restate its case for the value that it offers. And so why the CDI doing this? Well, one of the kind of key pillars of the CDI's purpose is to champion the profession. So in that guise, when we're seeing challenges upon the sector and challenges within the sector, it's a kind of inherent as the membership body to adopt the mantle. And we need some ammunition, though, to do that, and probably a little bit more ammunition than we've got to make the case for the career sector. So they're the kind of conspiring factors, if you like, to that are leading to this sort of public study. And what we imagine is an ideal world, an ideal system made of three, if we can imagine three sort of chunky bits here. Now, our ecosystem is complex. There's people that span these three different blocks of policy, professional and public, of course. But if we just imagine an ideal world where where policy is receiving evidence from the profession that it's that everything is kind of working and value is being delivered to policy agendas as well as to the public. It's giving its investment to the profession to deliver those services. The profession in turn is delivering the services that are aligned to the public wants and needs. That public is receiving those services neither because of direct engagement with them themselves or because of families and friends who are engaging with them, endorse that and give feedback to the policymakers. We'd love that to be the system that's in operation, but we see some slightly clunky wheels, if you like, in that picture at the moment and in different parts of the sector. And public research can play the role of if you like, oiling that system in terms of giving everybody a coherent view of the unmet needs of the public and the opportunities for career guidance. So that's kind of effectively the main thrust of the work. So one of the key gaps at the moment is we just simply, we've got lots of clues, but we haven't got a sort of contemporary understanding of what the public think about either their own careers, their career challenges, or of career services and what they may need from that. They may need career services but not realise they need them, or they may need them and wish they could find them but not know how to go about it. We've got some clues though, and some of those clues are slightly paradoxical as well. So there was a study done in 2021, for example. It looked at adults across 6 nations of the OECD. Big study, and it found that, like a lot of studies, they've typically found satisfaction with career guidance sitting between about 70 and 90% of people who receive career guidance services go away happy and satisfied. And this study found the same across 6 very different nations, going from Chile to the US and a couple of Europeans. However, on the back end of that survey, there was this finding that only 22% of people who'd had guidance, although satisfied with it, had attributed their success to guidance. So that leaves one scratching your head a bit. How can you be satisfied with the service, but then not attribute your later success to that service intervention? A similar study in the US in 2021 also kind of gave some very positive results, but also left scratching their head a little bit. 74% of adult users found private career guidance professionals very helpful. There was a very almost ubiquitous kind of endorsement of the careers profession and thinking that it offered valuable assistance to society, 85%. Half of people wish they could have their time over again, and if they did, would seek more and different careers information. However, then we're left going, well, only 25% intend to use a career guidance professional in future. So people are not translating their historical reflections on the value of career guidance into their future intent to use the service. And in fact, only less than half of the people who intend to use it are likely to go on to use it. We know young people in Britain, we know that, again, there's almost ubiquitous, young people in England, I should say, this was a study in England, but we know almost, again, ubiquitous kind of value seen in the services that people are receiving in school, schools and colleges. So this is a snapshot of this survey. So almost, 9 in 10 young people are finding that the career guidance suited their needs. It was about the right amount. However, when it came to who they consulted for their career guidance, of course, we know that about 3 times more still consulted friends and family than a qualified career guidance professional. And we also know on the back of that research that some research into parents is finding that parents are kind of throwing their hands up at the moment in terms of feeling that they're not equipped to give their children the support they need. So we know that. We know there's pockets of dissent as well. So we know that there's broad swell of satisfaction and warm regard for the career service, but we also know there's pockets of dissent. So I was scanning a Mumsnet poll from 2020, and about 2/3 of people conspired on this to have a rather critical view of career guidance. People saying they'd never received good careers advice, a moderate number sort of sitting in the middle, and only sort of like 1 in 10 talking very positively about their careers advice, mainly in response to their children. But again, when you looked at that data, a lot of that data was outdated opinions or very anecdotal sort of pieces of evidence, but still it had created this kind of sub-community within a wider society, if you like, of people that were not warmly disposed to the sector. Mr. Gove in 2013 didn't think we needed career guidance practitioners at all. And social scientists and economists who've gone about trying to put some science and rigor to this think career guidance offers fantastic value for money. That Tristram Hooley and colleagues at Derby last year found return on investment cases for career guidance in terms of spending £1 on career guidance returns somewhere between £2.50 and £3 to society. And pretty well all of past meta reviews or literature reviews into career guidance studies have found a very strong bias towards positive evaluations. In fact, very, very few, if any, negative views and a few neutral. So we know some things, but we don't know others. So we know that users are highly satisfied. We know what different countries think, what young people think, what Mr. Gove thinks, what some Mumsnet users think, and what the profession thinks too. But what we don't know at the moment still is what the population thinks. We also know that career guidance works because of the extensive body of evidence. We know the return on investment of some interventions, but what we don't know is critically looking forward, and in fact looking now and looking forward to the value that career guidance could offer the public. If we think about all the challenges and the aspirations and the barriers people face, and across society as a whole, and then into maybe different groups of people, we haven't summed them up to say, actually, there's a huge opportunity here for career guidance to help people unlock aspirations and overcome challenges and barriers, both for their own lives and for the sort of greater good of us all. And we also don't quite understand these perception reality gaps that the public are demonstrating in lots of other studies. And we don't also know what the nature of the wants and needs are from career guidance. We don't understand the wants and needs that people are expressing, but we also don't understand how many of those then see career guidance as the means to address those wants and needs. So we're short of some ammo, if you like, to make the case for the career sector. And that's where the research we're doing, those kind of factors are really scoping our research study, that sort of thinking that I've been doing with David and a couple of others at the CDI as well about, and that's kind of scoped this research study. So it's going to be, we had some challenges and thoughts on scoping it. We were originally thinking of going to both adults and young people. We're starting off with adults. This is a kind of biopsy of the nation. It's probably quite a broad piece and not hugely deep in terms of understanding all the dynamics in people's lives, but we want to get this kind of Google Earth view of the nation at the moment. So the objectives, really, the scope and the objectives of this are going to be to understand the nation's career experiences. And by that, we mean their lived experiences of now, their efforts and their endeavours at changing their careers, if they are so minded to do so, their memories of past careers and past careers advice and guidance that they've received. And we'd like to be able to surface and quantify the potential value for career guidance. So in other words, sum up all those different challenges that people are having that they're not able to crack at the moment. And we'd also finally like to create some baseline metrics for the sector. We kind of perceive, we have a hypothesis that the sector's brand, if you want, or is not reflecting the value of its proposition. If you were talking in sort of commercial language, it's got a great product and it's not always either well understood or people are aware of it, or not always translating the value that it offers into actually a recognition of that value. So that's our kind of hypothesis, and that's the scope of the work we're doing. The audience for this particular research, we're going to be talking to 5,000 UK adults. So we're going to get a national representative biopsy, if you like, of the landscape. So we're going to understand the kind of general picture, and then we've boosted the responses, different subsegments of that big population. We've boosted certain subsegments to make sure that we've got a kind of accurate view of groups that might otherwise have been underrepresented in the survey. So the 4 UK nations, making sure that we can understand the differences between them if they indeed exist. Kind of key kind of underrepresented groups, kind of minority, disability groups, etc. And then historic users of career service as well. So we give them a little bit of a boost to make sure that we can decipher the differences in people's outcomes between users and non-users of career services. The survey instrument itself, we're we're getting metadata, I should say, around all of the respondents. So that means we'll know their age, their gender, their their kind of where they live, etc., in terms of regions of the UK. But we're also going to be building a little bit of a profile of those people in terms of their career attitudes and behaviours to contextualise the rest of the study. We'll be then moving on to understand their career experience, a look back at their career, the motivations that drive them and their frustrations, in a 5-year view really of what's been happening in their careers over the last few years, and then looking forward to what they hope to be happening in the coming few years. What are their aspirations and what do they perceive as barriers to those? So once we've asked a kind of what their career experience is, we'll be asking them about the beliefs they have about career guidance. And I use the word career guidance, kind of quite loosely in this sense, advice, guidance, information, education, and so forth. So what's the beliefs about guidance? What are their perceptions of career guidance, and where did they come from? Have they been updated sometime in the last decade, for instance? What are the perceptions of guidance? And then what are their wants and needs from career guidance going forward? I won't go and dwell on that slide too much, but just to say we're capturing, quite a lot of different details under them, in terms of, for example, the profile of career attitudes and behaviours. We'll be profiling people in terms of things like, how satisfied are these people, how optimistic, how engaged in career management are they, what's their kind of decision-making typologies, what resources are they using at the moment, and have they got a kind of propensity to make changes. This whole piece fits under a bigger umbrella for the CDI, an umbrella called Valuing Careers. It's a wider campaign. The whole thrust of this, the whole purpose of this is to help make the case for the sector, to elevate and amplify the value that it offers, to influence policymakers, to influence publics, to play a role in recruiting the next generation of career guidance advisor, and so forth. So all this is contextualised by a wider sort of campaign that the CDI will be running through 2024. For this particular piece, we'll be producing the campaign. We expect the results to start to come in from sort of early June. We hope to be publishing headlines in June for this results, and then running a series of sort of content campaign pieces through the summer. In conjunction with that, we'll be doing some reports, so an overview paper we anticipate in July, and then also running a round table with some experts to basically socialise these results and to interpret them, and then launching at each of the UK parliaments in the autumn time. I should say these are provisional dates. I didn't know David was going to be on the call, and I hope he doesn't kill me earlier because I don't think we've quite cemented them, but that's a broad provisional plan for how we expect this to go forward over the next few months. So how we hope this helps, so just wrapping all this up, we hope that this, we hope that the profession that sits at the centre of this little diagram, I've added a couple more wheels to it, we hope we can influence policymakers on seeing both the value that the sector already offers, but also the immense opportunity it could offer with more funding and support and engagement. We hope that we can sort of play a role in crafting the right narratives to persuade the public, to sort of influence the public where we got the opportunity, and also to understand the opportunities and challenges to evolve the sector's strength from what the public are telling us in return. We hope it means that the profession we can add a little bit of muscle in professionals making the case within their various institutions in which they work, or the various systems in which they work. And we hope we can also motivate researchers to sort of help us to deepen our understanding of what it makes to create this wheel as we'd all like it, as a system as we'd all like it, and get those kind of cogs working as we'd like. So that's the role we hope this research plays. As I said, a role of oil in the cogs, not necessarily a cog in its own right. So that's me done. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. So any questions?
You, Steve. And just as people are contemplating their questions, I will just say I think this is going to warm the cockles of every career practitioner's heart. It's something that we really need to be championing as a profession. And I think you're going to find some interesting answers. I think you're still sharing. So if you'd like to hit the stop sharing button, I can stop seeing myself talking to myself, which is slightly relief. Thank you. We're a really interesting period that we've all lived through, and it'd be fascinating to see how much career guidance sits in here. You talk to any practitioner and they will turn to you and say, if I get another person telling me how awful a careers advisor was, I might turn mutinous, because I think we've all had that on more than one occasion. And I'd be interested to see, I'm going to start you off with a question actually, and take questions from the floor. So if you've got your questions, either pop in the chat or put your hand up and I'll come to you. Just as your start of a 10, really, do you see that you're going to be connecting this with the impact that career guidance in particular can make, and the difference it can make in the context of mental health, which clearly is something that is rampant in whether you're looking at adults or children these days?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that's. I think we see a cluster of these challenges. Kind of. I mean, it's not always the case, is it? But we see a cluster of these challenges working together in mental health. So we are asking explicitly in the survey, for example, about whether mental health is perceived, or health basically is perceived as a barrier to achieving your career aspirations. And we can then see, for example, a lot of this is going to be in the analysis and the questions we've asked. We've carefully kind of crafted the data set so that we're going to tell a story, but we want people to really dive into it as well. And we've tried to create all the levers and the variables that allow people to do that. So one of the interesting threads that this research will hopefully allow, or the data will allow, and we'll be pulling it out, but others can then pour into it even more, is things like, are we seeing, what is mental health linked to as well? What sort of career behaviours and barriers is that also linked to? And who are the ones who are experiencing those mental health issues? And are there different flavours of those mental health issues? So I think we can get a lot out of that. Caroline, effectively the end point being to recognise challenges, to be able to scope and craft nice, nice challenges, discrete packages of challenges that we can say, look, here's a challenge to solve with this group of people. And so that's the hope out of that. But yes, certainly mental health is embedded in the survey.
Thank you, Stephen. Fascinating. I can't wait to see this come out. I don't know about anybody else. Right, questions for Stephen. Ask away. This is your opportunity, or even David on timelines. He was laughing a lot when you said that, by the way, Stephen. I think you're okay. So, anybody got questions for Stephen? It'll be a very quiet. Yeah, David, go for it. You got a question for Stephen? Go for it.
Well, I will just run the time. Yeah, we are still working through it a little bit. And you probably noticed in there, Stephen said about presenting at the nation's governments. So we've done various events before. I've been to various events at the Houses of Parliament before. But one of the things, as Stephen says, we've boosted the survey so we get a representative sample from across all 4 nations. I mean, Northern Ireland will be a little bit more limited. It is just going to be harder to get the numbers there. So we won't be able to drill down by all the variables. But that kind of led us to think, so one of the things we're looking at is, okay, let's see what the story is by each nation. But the overarching results will be overarching and relevant regardless. But actually, are we getting sufficient detail and sufficient content to talk about with each specific nation? So we could maybe do an event in Scotland, do an event in Wales, potentially do an event in Northern Ireland, but I think that's probably going to be the weakest in terms of a story. But so rather than just do the one in the UK government, try and bring around a bit more. But I think to the other thing Stephen said about the information being available, there's only so much we're going to be able to analyse out of this. We're doing it for 2 or 3 key purposes, but we're conscious the information will be really valuable, and we will be making it available to other research organisations for free. There'll be a process for that and a recognition for that, and statements and so on. But we want it to be a database that the rest of the profession can use to further analyse it or to link into other work they're doing. So if anyone is doing research and think this data set could be useful, then let Stephen know. And once we've got the process sorted out and we've got the results back, happy to share it.
David, I think it'd be really interesting to see if there is disparity between the different nations, given that, bless him, Michael Gove disbanded connections. overnight. I remember sitting in a conference for the Association of Graduate Careers Advisory Services when we were all going, has he done that? And yet in Wales, we have a national, fully funded national career service, albeit with a little bit of trims, but trimming around the edges, but we still are fortunate to have one. So it'll be interesting to see if you get disparity between nations because of that, actually, and what messages that brings out for us to take to the various governments in support of or to champion more. Any other questions? That was really helpful, David. Thank you for picking that up. Any other questions at all? This is your chance. Stephen loves questions on research. I'm guessing no's. Everybody's very quiet today. Is it the rain has depressed everybody? I suspect it might have. Stephen, I think you might be off the hook, but it's my chance to say thank you very much for coming. I hope you're enjoying your first virtual visit to Wales.
Yes.
We are not quite a chatty, but you've obviously covered all the bases because you're not getting any questions. So what I would do now just is bring us back to where we are on the meeting. So we've gone through making the case for the sector and the role that the CDI has in finding out research that creates headlines, that flies the flag for the profession and acts as a lever for creating change. There's an interesting debate happening on LinkedIn at the moment around events and funding and access to having a seat at the table, and I think this will definitely give us a much better seat at the table, so really encouraged to see it. So we've talked about the big picture and we've talked about adults. Let's now switch our attention to talking about primary and how we actually help get past some of the barriers, not least mum saying to child, oh, the careers advisor was useless when they come back from having seen one. So absolutely delighted to welcome Chris today, Chris Brachet from Careers Wales. Chris is going to pop his slides up. He does have a video as well, and there'll be a little bit of switching between him and Georgia to make sure that all of that happens. We have mastered the tech, we think. That's probably a very dangerous thing to say. So I'm just going to caveat that. We think we have, and our fingers are crossed. So let me introduce Chris. He's worked across a range of disciplines for Careers Wales. He's currently sitting up in Colwyn Bay, which is equally grey and miserable. My daughter put a meme up this afternoon, which said something like, autumn comes quicker every year. That seemed to be reflecting the flavour today. So Chris is a qualified careers advisor. I saw him smiling, the comment about, if I had a fiver for every time I've been insulted as a professional. So he's a qualified careers advisor with experience of working with young people and adults. Since 2015, he's been providing consultancy and training in secondary schools and other educational establishments with the aim of building the skills, knowledge and confidence of educational professionals to deliver an effective careers programme. And now he's turning his attention to primary. So over to you, Chris, a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Carolyn, and thank you very much to the CDI for the invite today. Okay, so it's a quick overview of Careers City, which is a resource that's been produced by Careers Wales, currently in its second iteration, with a whole new map and new animations, which we'll come to in a minute. So there's just three areas we're going to cover today about Careers City. Just going to look at the aim of Careers City, an overview of the resource, and some suggestions for use. The first thing to say really about Careers City is, yes, it is a digital resource, but it can also be used as an analogue resource as well. And to that end, there are printable materials that come as part of this resource for practitioners to use. So, aim of Careers City. So it helps learners in primary settings to start or continue their exploration of the world of work and careers. It helps you as practitioners incorporate careers and work-related experiences across the curriculum in a fun, engaging and manageable way. So it's important to state here that Careers City in and of itself isn't seen as a standalone resource. It's designed to be used to support your teaching to incorporate careers in an authentic and naturally occurring way. So you as teachers have the freedom to choose at what level you wish to incorporate any of the resources that we're going to look at today. And later on, I'll give you some suggestions of how that's been done. And the idea is that learners will be able to identify different career sectors and understand them in the context of what they're being taught in the classroom. And it's also possible for you to adapt and personalise this to take into account your community and reflect on the labour market in your area and beyond, as Carolyn touched on some labour market information during the introduction to this meeting. Careers City is primarily for learners in years 5 to 6, but I'll also give an example later on of how some schools have incorporated it to so all year groups are involved and have access to the Careers City map. And as you can see there, the main aim of Careers City is to raise awareness of the wide range of careers available, expand horizons and raise aspirations, challenge preconceived ideas about the world of work, and make connections between interests, skills and subjects and possible future career choices, as I mentioned, all in a very naturally occurring and authentic way. So a quick video just to show you, well, where do you find Careers City? So here you'll see careerswales.gov.wales. If you click on there, scroll down the home page to where you'll see education and teaching professionals, then click on primary, then click on primary resources, and then you'll see Careers City just there, and then you can click on it there. Alternatively, you can find the resource directly on Hub. And this is what it looks like on Hub. So they're the aims. So a quick overview of the resource. So it contains 10 different items, a document which gives you an introduction to the resource, guidelines on how to use it or suggestions on how to use it. And I'll give, as I say, more explanation of this. As you'll notice there, we use the word suggestion for use, and it's not prescriptive. It is very much up to you as a practitioner to decide how best to incorporate it. A record sheet for when learners do the buzz quiz, a leaflet that learners can fill in on jobs I would like to do. And then you've got 2 versions of the main key element, which is the Careers City map. So there's a printable version, which I'll show in a minute, and there's an online interactive version. There's the key to the map, blank templates, which I'll talk about in a minute, an activity sheet on skills, and finally a resource directory. So as I mentioned, it's possible to present this activity in several ways and over various timescales to suit yourselves. You can do it as part of a separate careers lesson during a careers activity week, or incorporated and embedded into everyday lessons throughout the year, which is a really great way to embed the careers as part of your teaching. We've done this because feedback from schools tells us that practitioners don't necessarily want these separate lesson plans or lots of individual resources, but rather a clear example of how the activity can be incorporated into their everyday teaching, which is linking the lessons to the real world. And the real world, of course, is the world of work. So I'll just come back a minute. So in terms of suggestions for use, there may be a bit of pre-activity to be done at the beginning of the year. So you could start by explaining to learners that you will be looking at different jobs throughout the year related to the range of topics, subjects or themes that you'll be discussing. And to prepare for this, they may need to do a few activities. So the first thing you can do is present to them the City of Careers map, so the Careers City. Here you'll see 12 different sectors explaining that the buildings and structures represent different career sectors. So there could be conversations around, well, what do we mean by a career sector to start with? So again, this isn't prescriptive. So this is entirely up to yourselves as practitioners as to what level do we want to go to. So there could be a discussion around, as I say, well, what do we mean by career sector? Within those sectors, you could explain that there are a huge number of jobs. So as I mentioned before, this is about raising aspirations and widening learners' knowledge about different careers. So it's about talking about those wide range of jobs. And behind each of these individual people on this map, digitally, you can click on those and that will link to an animation related to that career sector, which is a slightly unusual job that we've picked and created animation for. I'll then quickly show you, hang on a minute. Look. We are looking to add some more sectors around entrepreneurship to the Careers City map, and they will be added to the digital one with new animations as well. So you can also use the map to stimulate discussion around the type of jobs that learners are aware of and those that people do in their local area and beyond. And by making clear curricular connections, practitioners can identify the opportunities, as I said, in your daily, weekly or term plans to incorporate careers, education and work experiences across the curriculum. So that's the digital map, and here's the printable map. So you could print this off and put it on the wall so it's ever present within your lessons. And so instead of the animation, the figureheads, they're QR codes. So learners, if you've got a tablet or device per learner or per every other learner, they can scan those QR codes and that will bring up that animation as well. So that's a one to be printed. So as I mentioned, the buildings on the map represent different sectors and they're the priority sectors in Wales. And there's, to accompany the map, there is a key for you. So the sectors are, as you can see, agriculture, construction, creative arts, digital technology, education, energy and the environment, finance, insurance and legal, health, manufacturing, public services, tourism, hospitality, sport and leisure, and transport and storage. And to the right, you'll see one of the blank templates, and there's in each one of these blank templates for each sector. So the idea behind this is that you can place the printable map on the wall, and around that, you can place each one of these sectors. You can then ask your learners to connect the sectors to different parts of the map, i.e. they've got to try and find out or think about, well, which one does education link to? And of course, there's a visual clue there because that relates to the graphic. So there's an initial task there to do to help learners understand what we mean by career sectors. And then you can ask the learners to think about one job and write it on the corresponding sector template. And this activity is designed to start populating the sector areas and sets the stage for future work. It also gets learners thinking outside the box slightly and maybe just trying to think of all those different types of jobs that may be involved across different sectors. And then that gives you a chance to see how many sectors are populated at the beginning of the year. So I'm just going to stop sharing here and ask Georgia to share the YouTube video of one of the animations to show you an example of what that's like.
Are you interested in icy landscapes and glaciers? Join AJ, a glaciologist, on an expedition into this exciting landscape. Glaciologists research glaciers and ice to understand planet Earth's history and climate. AJ uses special equipment to measure ice thickness, study ice cores and track changes. AJ studies how glaciers form, how they move, and the impact of climate change. To be a glaciologist, you need to be curious, patient, and have a love for science and the environment. You also need to be resilient and adaptable to work in extreme conditions. AJ was very good at science subjects in school and also studied geography. If you want to explore Earth's icy wonders by using science, being a glaciologist could be the career for you. To learn more about the amazing careers open to you, visit the Careers Wales website today at careerswales.gov.wales.
Thank you, Georgia. Okay, so one of the animations follows a similar theme. So it talks about the job. As you can see, they're slightly unusual jobs. So we've done that deliberately to try and, as I say, expand horizons. It talks about skills and qualities. So there could be class discussions there. They may not know what's meant by the word resilient. So that can lead the way to have discussions about what does we mean by resilient. And then it also talks about subjects. So of course your pupils, learners in year 5 and 6 will be doing science. So you can link that type of qualification and what they're doing within the classroom to an animation that they've just had experience of. So there are ways to link back to the animation. And as I say, each of those animations follows the same format. So the next stage around this is to really start expanding the ideas of learners. So as I say, there are some activities to start with, but then throughout the year, once these are done, it's really a case of populating that Career City map with all the different sectors. And the idea behind the Buzz Quiz activity is an opportunity to find out what kind of personality the learner has and which jobs might relate to that personality. So it's important to say it's not the job that matches you, it's matching that personality. And this can be done from the front of the classroom, it can be done in groups, it can be done as individuals. So again, it's entirely down to yourselves. And it's a great quick 5-minute activity, but it can form much part of a longer lesson as well. And basically what that does is allow the learner across a series of 4 sets of questions that ask them, are you this or are you that? So I think out loud, or I more think to myself type questions. And then it gives them 16 possible outcomes, and each of those is associated with an animal. And then that links then that they can record that on their Buzz Quiz record sheet, and it talks about their strength. It says some of the jobs that can use my strengths would be, and sectors that might suit me. You can then record those onto the sector templates, which is on the wall. What some schools have done is actually ask the learners to print out a small A5 version of the map, and around that they've written the sectors in their own exercise books, and then they've added careers within their own exercise books. So as I say, this isn't prescriptive. Different schools have approached this and adopted its use to best suit them. So that's the Buzz Quiz. Then by highlighting the skills that are being developed, you can then transfer those onto the Your Skills page. And this is where you can start talking about different skills and how it may be useful in different careers that have come up on the Buzz Quiz. But also it could be used for planning for future lessons. So if you're seeing that learners don't quite sure what's meant by leadership or problem solving or research, you may build some of those skills into your future lessons to help build those skills up. So again, the idea is it's not just standalone, but it's there to be embedded within daily and support daily practice. And then after completing the quiz, you can then get the learners to complete the jobs I would like to do worksheet to identify then the basis of their current understanding of the world of work and their aspirations. And the reason we suggest, and I say it's a suggestion doing the Buzz Quiz first, because it will give some example jobs and it'll help the learner with some ideas. It's possible to revisit this at the end of the year to reflect on any distance travelled, to see whether their aspirations or horizons of scope has increased and the type of jobs that they may be writing at the end of the year compared to the beginning of the year. Some of the class may do jobs that may look at jobs that might not yet exist. And you can explain that the poster, the Career City, will remain on the wall throughout the year and will be added to as different career sectors and jobs are identified. So what do we mean by that? So here's some ways it can be used. So at the end of a topic or theme or a subject, you can point that you think is relevant. You can refer back to the map and the sectors on the wall to add a job related to the topic. So to give an example of that, one of the schools I was working with, one of their topics was called Grandad's Garden, and that was all about area. It's a maths theme, all about working out area. So what they then did as an addition to support using Career City, they took a job that was linked to Grandad's Garden, in this case a landscape architect, and they put that on the career sector around the map. They also then, their comprehension homework was the job description for a landscape architect, and the comprehensive questions were around identifying skills, qualities, subjects, etc. So that was one way that it was naturally occurring. It wasn't shoehorned in. They were already doing a topic called Grandad's Garden. They then introduced this different job and then enhanced that by adding a comprehension homework on top of that. You can ask learners, as I say, to research the jobs. Another idea was that linking activities to the digital competency framework. So what some of the learners did in one of the schools was, as they built up this list of careers, they then created their own database of those careers with information around them, which lent itself towards the digital competency framework, again, in a naturally occurring way. And of course, there's a practice other skills such as presentation, research, literacy, and numeracy tasks. So that one of their homeworks or similar may be to go away and research one of the jobs that they're interested in and write a presentation that they have to present in front of the class, or create a poster to present as part of developing presentation skills, etc. And of course, researching jobs helps with literacy, etc. So there's just some further suggestions of how it can be used: embedded in homework, delivering presentations, researching jobs. And I mentioned before how some schools are also incorporating other year groups to help them start getting the idea of Career City. So instead of putting that big Career City map on in their year group wall, they put it on the wall at the top of the stairs in the hallway on a big display. So every time any learner walked past, they were seeing the Career City map, and around it were the career sectors. And throughout the year, they were seeing different careers being added to the wall. So they were just seeing it all the time. They may not have known exactly what it was, but they were being exposed to it. So in terms of practicing numeracy skills, maths and numeracy, you could use salary data, working hours, number of people working in different sectors. And I'll show you where that can be found in a minute. As I say, throughout the year, the list on the wall will grow. Different jobs will be discussed. It can also be used as an opportunity to tackle stereotyping and aspirations. You can use it as an opportunity for researching on how many different routes there are into one job, for example, apprenticeships, academic qualifications, vocational qualifications, and the type of onward training such as sixth form, further education colleges. So I mentioned about researching jobs from these different careers. So this is where you can help the learners and direct them to, or use for yourself. On Careers Wales, there's this part on the home page, which we just scrolled through on the video that you saw. And you'll see there that there's job information, and there's also Future Jobs Wales, which I'll talk about in a minute. There's links to subjects and jobs, the link to the buzz quiz there as well. So this is where the learner can go and research all the different types of jobs that are careers that are out there. So this is an example taken from the job information page, which is the aerospace engineer. So it talks about future demand, health considerations, how to become, and below that page that you can't quite see, it talks about skills and qualities and the related subjects as well. Oh, there they are. So there again, that then feeds back into what was possibly on the buzz quiz, and it can link to your topic or your theme or your lesson because it talks about relevant subjects, and then there's related jobs, again, to expand their horizons. So really from this point, it's almost limitless what you could ask the learner to do. And this is the Future Jobs Wales section. So this is quite a new addition to Careers Wales website. And these are the 7 areas that are included at the moment, and there are more being developed. So jobs in Mid Wales, North Wales, South Wales, West Wales, and then you got jobs in health, jobs in energy, jobs in construction. And that's all linked to live data. So we use an API to link that to live data. And I think it's updated every once in a while. So we're getting up-to-date information. And you can look further into that information, and it's full of infographics, full of information and data that can be linked to probably most things that you're teaching at that particular time. Just to let you know which are the next sectors or areas to be included within this, it's care, creative jobs, and jobs in retail and customer service. So again, to support use of Careers City and getting learners involved in researching careers, we've also developed a careers resource directory. This was last updated in towards the end of 2023. And this is basically a list of different websites that can be accessed to find out more useful information. So we're just trying to bring things into one area as one single point of call for yourselves as practitioners to try and find different useful websites. We don't endorse these websites, they are third party. We do our best to ensure they're up to date. And as you can see, we've broken them down by area. So that's a whistle-stop tour, as I said, of Careers City. Hopefully you've, as we're talking, you can think about the lessons that you're teaching and identify or think about different areas that how you might incorporate it and use it. I'm just trying to stop sharing.
Lovely. Chris, thank you. I can absolutely see why Careers City is one of the shortlisted entries for the CDI's UK Career Development Awards. Absolutely fascinating. And my goodness, wouldn't it have made a difference to a lot of people? They'd had that much earlier on. Questions, think about your questions for Chris. I just wanted to pick out a few things I thought were absolutely brilliant, and that's that sense of contextualizing study in the world of work, so that at an early age you might even discover your why really quickly, and you'll come out far wiser about who you are and what you want to do with your life than maybe the journey that a lot of us have ambled our way through and struggled our way through trying to find out who we are and what we want to do. So it was really encouraging. I really liked hearing a bit about entrepreneurship coming in there as well, because we know that Wales is not doing quite as well in that area as it could do based on the latest stats, and that's a real growth engine for the country as well, isn't it? If only we'd all been able to meet AJ, wouldn't that have made a difference? Any questions for Chris? You've shared very generously there, given us a real insight to it. There must be questions or comments that people want to share from the floor. So please feel free, don't be shy, ask away. She said, looking around the room. Yes, Angie, do you want to unmute and ask your question? Welcome, by the way, Angie. Angie's our third speaker from NHS Wales, from Hugh, hot off the doorsteps, the virtual doorsteps of talking to the Minister. We hope that went well. Do you just want to unmute and ask your question, please? She's gone. Where's she gone? She was there a bit. There she is.
Am I back? Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Great.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been with the Minister. I am also going to apologise before I ask my question, if I may, because I'm not used to not having a HIW background automatically behind me. And I've just realised, honestly, it is not an instrument of some sort of torture. It is a dressmaker's dummy. But it looks like I've got a headless woman behind me and two dogs on the sofa.
Previously somebody worked in NHS Wales, was it?
Normally I've got it just automatically comes up behind me and you can never see in my, thank goodness it's not too untidy. Anyway, that aside, no, I was just going to say I think it's a really great product. I think it's really, really good. And I know with my presentation we'll also be showing Careersville, which is very, very similar in look and feel, as you know. But my comment was that actually for the health bit, can we work together? Because it feels mad to have two almost similar type products where actually we could really combine forces and share and be mutually beneficial was my thinking.
We do link to Careersville on the resource directory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Andrea Jones is here today. Andrea is an operational development manager for Careers Wales, so that's possibly a conversation to take forward with Andrea.
Yeah, very happy to.
Andrea, I'm just nominating you.
Yeah, happy with that. You go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Andrea.
So there will be there'll be a chance for networking later, so maybe you can do a bit of email exchanging as well. Email information exchanges there. Thank you for flagging that, because that's one of the things that we run this forum for, is just to help people cross connect, and let's not do the duplication. We're not the biggest country on the planet. We don't have infinite resources, so let's actually do a little bit of that collaborative working, which I think is brilliant. I really like the way, by the way, that you've got a poster on the wall that keeps it in people's mind's eye, but they can actually go and access it digitally, which gets people thinking about it, not just in this one place. Absolutely.
When I was initially, looking at this, I was working with primary schools who were part of the initial collaboration, and as I said, it was about we don't want something just standalone that we just address and then move on. How can we make it ever present within the classroom, so everything that's being done can be somehow embedded and related back to why are we doing this, and how can we build those, as I say, those aspirations, help them to look beyond the jobs that they know because of the people around them and what they're exposed to. And as this is the end product, and it is very much the key is that Careers City map, and that having that ever presence in the classroom so that it's always there, it can always be related to and linked to and grow over time.
Brilliant, brilliant. And the more that people are self-aware, the more they can manage in changing times as well. That resilience piece, I think, is really important, particularly at that age as well. Thank you for that, Chris. Any other questions or comments for Chris? I'm quite blown away by that. For anybody else, any questions or comments? Anybody wants to pick up on anything other than that great bit of collaboration we've just managed to pull off there? Anything else? In that case, I'm going to say, because I can't see any other hands going up, I'm going to say thank you ever so much for that, Chris. I hope you found that beneficial from your point of view. This is being recorded, by the way, so if you wanted to take the recording and edit down to the bit that you've done and share that, you're very welcome for that as well, and I'll make sure that happens if that's of interest to you, because you might want to share that through teachers and just put it as a resource on your website for Hub, for instance. Thank you, Chris. Really, really helpful. Thank you. So you can see where we are on the agenda now. We've done the second of our two speakers. We've had that bit. We've started off with the research piece. We've now looked at a digital resource which does have some physical properties to it and is clearly embedding careers centre stage throughout the entire curriculum, which is the really exciting bit for me. You can hear a passionate practitioner here, can't you? So really exciting there. We're going to take a short break now, maintain our energy levels with a quick cup of tea, and then back again in 10 minutes when we'll pick up with Angie talking all about what she's already hinted at, and the whole sort of strategic framework that they've been developing that the CDI has been very pleased and happy to be able to contribute to. So I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Is that okay with everybody? Everybody happy with that? Lovely. See you here in 10 minutes, and we'll pick up for the third speaker and then the sort of conversation and networking piece. See you shortly.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm just going to try and share my screen now in readiness, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do. Georgia's in the background, so she'll be listening to see whether we need to change any permission settings. I'm sure she's got you set for multiple presenters. We've done that with the other two presenters, so you should be fine. But give it
Brilliant.
a
Can you
go.
see
I
it?
will stop sharing. I'm stop sharing. Yes, we can see that. Glorious. We'll leave that there, shall we, rather than go back and forth? Let's just
Great.
leave that there. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
then
fine.
you're all set up. So let me just bring up the bit. I'll get to the bit I want, which is that one. There we are. Lovely. You might just want to click on the hide where it says appzoom.us is sharing your screen. If you just click up, there we go. Brilliant. Doesn't get in the way of your presentation.
Not used to Zoom.
Joys of tech. Oh, it changes all the time. I did a career wellbeing workshop for Careers Wales on Monday. I was in Teams. I was going, hang on a minute, because I live in Zoom land, not Teams land. It was like, hold on, where's the button gone? Oh, it's there. But anyway, at least it saves us travelling. Yeah, it's the same concepts, but it's executed differently, and they've got slightly different intuitive approaches to it, some of which I find more intuitive or less depending on the platform. Anyway, we are here. I'm just going to hold on a minute because I think there's a few people still grabbing their cups of tea and coffee. So I'll wait to see a few more cameras come on, but then we'll be ready to move on. When I see a few more, I'll do the introduction to you. What you missed at the start, for obvious reasons, was one of the things I referenced as a news report, Angie, was about the WNO protests outside the Senedd, about the cuts that they are facing to their budget, and I referenced you because of your background as originally training as a musician. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But that was quite a significant set of cuts they're going through. They've got Arts Council England has cut their funding by a third to 4 million in 2022, and the Arts Council Wales has reduced it further by 11.8%. And they're now having to cut performances in some sort of the outer areas for Wales. Anyway, Llandudno, they cut Bristol and Liverpool as well. So cuts are biting all around the place. Anyway, enough of that. I'm just going to wait for David to pop his camera back. Oh, there he is. He's back in the room. Obviously, I would say enjoying a Welsh cake, but he's not in the right country for that. He misses out, doesn't he? We all know what a Welsh cake's like over here. See all the people from Wales smiling happily as soon as I mention Welsh cakes. All right, so welcome back. I hope you've had a Welsh cake or a donut or whatever makes you smile on this fairly miserable afternoon. The joy is still in this room, though, and I'm absolutely delighted to be able to welcome Angie Oliver today. Now, as you might have heard me saying just now, as Angie and I were chatting, Angie originally trained as a classical musician in Cardiff at the university there, specialising in composition and performance. And I'm going to remark on that being a theme that's carried on through her life, but in a different sense. Initially had a career in secondary education, which is, I think, possibly why she was so enthusiastic about what Chris has just shared with us. And then Angie joined the NHS in 1995, working first in the ambulance service and then at Cardiff and Vale, moving to Pembrokeshire in 2004, taking up the head of staff development, and then subsequently becoming the assistant director of workforce and organisational development. There's that composition and performance in action there, I think. She started her current post at Hugh, and I know you're going to talk a bit about Hugh in a minute, in February 2019, and is specifically responsible for the 10-year health and social care workforce strategy implementation. Take a breath. The Strategic Mental Health Workforce Plan implementation programme, and also leads the Strategic Workforce Supply Agenda, including attraction and marketing campaigns. And you've given some examples. One is Train Work Live, and then also Careersville, which we're going to show today, which Sue from NHS Wales is going to present for us after Angie's done her big picture strategy piece. We're going to hand over then to Sue. Other things that Angie's responsible for: NHS careers and widening access to careers in health. So it's my absolute pleasure this afternoon to welcome, with the mannequin behind her, which gives us a hint about something else she's interested in. I'm giving too much away here, aren't I? And you've got a dog. Welcome, Angie, and over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm afraid that the Great British Sewing Bee has a lot to answer for, and it does tend to get very expensive in my household when it starts to run again. So it started last night, so I'm yet to see. But yes, I do have the sewing machine that they have, and the this and the that and all the rest of it. And I'm hoping that the dummy in the background isn't going to put you off. It is in the middle of trying to work out a costume, so it does look a bit odd. So thank you for that introduction. It's really, really lovely to be here. Pnawn everyone. And as Carolyn said, Sue is with me, and Sue is my lead in careers, and particularly in the development of Careersville itself. So we'll come to that in a moment. But I'm just going to take you through a very quick
before
tour.
Before we get into your presentation, your slides somehow seem to have disappeared. So could you share those again, please? I don't know where they went, but they were there 1 minute and gone the next. Yeah, we were just talking about Teams and Zoom and the joys.
Yeah, it did drop out, so maybe that's
there we go. You're in.
Happened.
There we go. Over to you.
So we've been working over the last year or so on it started off as a career strategy, but I'll tell you the story as we got through. But what we have just finalised now is a strategic framework for NHS Wales careers. I was hoping to share the actual document with you today, but we've just had a couple of issues on the Welsh translation. So hopefully it'll be out within days. So rather than give you the draft version of it, we wanted to find the pretty copy. So I'm just really going to sort of explain a little bit around what I'm going to talk to today, just to give you an overview. I'm just going to run through some of these areas to set the scene, and then just sort of describe where we are now and what we think success will look like. So I'm not going to run through this in detail. I'm sure we're all very familiar with this context, but from a health perspective, or an NHS perspective in particular, we know that we need to acknowledge our work has to be applicable to the 5 generations in our workforce at the moment, and I'm including Gen Alpha in that because they're going to hit our workforce in about 26 months time. I think I know it's July the 20th because that's when the schools will have come, and that fits in my brain because that happens to be my birthday. So it's July the 20th, 2026. And that's quite frightening because we're still talking about Gen Alpha as if it's sometime in the future, and actually it's virtually round the corner. And so as part of this work, we had to ensure also that we were working with partners, both in shaping and implementing the framework. And we know the landscape is very busy, and so what we want to do is really have the opportunity to build on our individual strengths so that collectively we address these challenges without duplication, so there's that power in that collective approach. So this, sorry, I'm going to go back. So it was really important that we recognised all of this, and that we set out a way of putting this framework together. We followed our HIW approach really to doing big strategic planning, and that's really breaking it down really simply, having a look to see what sort of data is out there that helps to guide us, having a look at the horizon scanning, the research, best practice, etc., that sort of academic side of things, but crucially then bringing that together and then engage with the experts around the field and also the people for whom we were doing this in the first place. So we worked with a number of organisations. We had reps from over 32 organisations, higher education, schools, our partners in delivering health and care. Obviously the CDI as well were really involved in the whole sort of engagement and shaping of it. And what we wanted to do is to, when we got the final piece of work, we wanted people to be able to see their influence in that piece of work. So it's that meaningful engagement. So this is some of the stuff that we found as part of that. And again, not going to go through all of it because you will be very, very aware of it. But perhaps the thing for the NHS was particularly with the COVID experience, we went through this very, it was quite a wave in a sense because there was the sort of Thursday clap. And then since COVID, we've had industrial unrest, and people have actually seen the NHS and how tough it can be in the NHS as well during that experience. So I think the thinking around the NHS and NHS careers has changed quite significantly over the last few years. Not necessarily in a bad or a good way, it's just different. And I think that making sure that we adapt to that is really, really important. And the other thing is, you know, we are a multi-system approach. We have 350 different roles, plus we run the biggest hotels in the areas. You might not choose to go and stay with us, but you know, they are essentially hotels, and they've got everything from the logistics and the electricians right through to, you know, food, catering, and experience. So it's those careers that are really important as well to us, not just the doctors, nurses, and the clinical staff, which we tend to think about. And the other key thing for us is the shape of the workforce. The shape of the census is telling us, and because of pension changes, etc., we've got a workforce that might be looking for their second, third, or even fourth careers. So our careers work has to be as applicable to our current staff as it is to try and attract people into our services. And each one of those generations need a different approach. So we're trying to sort of recognise that as well. These are some of the other things that we found through our engagement. So many people said, actually, this strategy, it was a strategy at the time, should cover 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years. But we, having done the initial engagement, we then went round the loop and we tested the feedback that we'd had on the stakeholders as well, to say, have we captured this correctly? Is there anything that you need to add, etc., etc.? So that feedback loop was very, very important. So these were the themes that that emerged, and we got to these from the engagement sessions, plus obviously the research and the data, etc., that we had done, and so essentially we're looking at we're asking for the reliable, trusted source of information and resources. You know, where can they go as a one-stop shop that they know is absolutely the place to go? Work preparation is another key area for us, and from an NHS background, you know, people who sign up to come into clinical roles, for example, start to go into university at 18 and then realise that actually the career is not for them. You know, maybe they don't like blood, for example. You know, I mean, it could be anything. But to make sure that they're really prepared on what the future career is really, really important, because we're having, there's been a number of reports into student experience that sort of pulls out the mental well-being of students who perhaps weren't as prepared as they could have been. And then when they're faced with the reality, thinking it isn't for me, and then that brings its own well-being challenges as well with that. So that for me it is as important to understand that the career is not for you as much as it is for you. So that was extremely important. And perhaps the work experience stuff has been something that we've lost in the health because of, well, I suppose everybody has because of COVID, but particularly in health because of COVID and the complications around trying to open the doors again now for work experience in the health services. The other thing that came through really strongly was access to mentors. So we've taken that on board as well. That ability to have a mentor or real people in real situations that career seekers can go and talk to get that real first-hand information. And obviously the digital and simulation technologies, you know, maximising as much as we can there. We've talked about Careersville, but we would love to go into the VR space and simulation space much more as well. So I guess we then sort of thought about back to this sort of really complex landscape and lots of people doing lots of things because they have a duty to do it as well. So what we wanted to have a look at is maybe we need to look at this slightly differently in how is HEIW we have a statutory duty for careers in health. How can we work best with our partners so that we collectively have this powerful approach, I suppose, for want of a better word, without duplicating and without trying to do any land grabbing or anything like that? How can we provide the bit that only we can do? And then how can we work with our partners to get the best out of everybody to collectively deliver our agendas? So we it is a jigsaw. You know, for us, Royal Colleges and professional bodies are absolutely key. They've all got their career strategies, attraction strategies, etc. Careers advisory services, schools, colleges. You know, I'm not going to go around the loop there, but you can see where our thinking. And so, what we've recognised is that because of this complex landscape, and by working with our partners, we've actually started to unpick where the added value from HEIW is. And as a national workforce body, as I've said, we're responsible for leading that NHS agenda. So in this context, we believe this means that we'll utilise our expertise to identify the priority set direction standards for careers and work experience and provide that sort of central compendium of resources and approaches, which then we can support our partners to progress their agenda at a local level. So that's what this strategic framework is basically all about. So we will do a lot of that, but it will be with partners and it will be geared to support the whole system and not just this sort of narrow HEIW's statutory responsibility area. And that's why it became a careers a framework for NHS careers, not a career strategy. So that's where we are at the moment. And I guess the other test for it was, you know, so what's the so what factor for this? In last year, we had the duty of quality for health coming into law. So we now have a statutory duty to think about all that we do in and the quality lens that gives us. And there's a set of standards which spell STEEP, actually STEEP, there's an extra E in it. And as we're developing our plans now, we're trying to link it back to describe what we're doing and how it will achieve this duty of quality. So internally, I'll try and go backstage. We want to make sure that our offering is safe, and that is about preparing the students adequately for the roles before they get into them. We want to make sure that the information we provide is timely and up to date. We want to obviously attract people to careers in NHS Wales. And also that equitable piece, that diversity piece, is we want our workforce to represent a wide range of backgrounds and traditions. So it truly is diverse. We want to have the great partnerships with schools, employers, etc. This space with the CDI gives us a really good element to get that right as well, and we do work hard with our partners, and also it's about the person. You know, are we providing what they're looking for, and how do we make sure that happens as well? But essentially, what we want to do is to make sure that it's really clear on the various career pathways and the opportunities once you're on those pathways, and the multiple pathways that you can then. What we want to create is a bit like an underground tube map. You know, there's those partners, and you can go to various places from it. And then, you know, the impact then on our patients by doing that is, if we get this right, or we will get this right, when we get this right, the right people will be in our services with the right attitudes, and that means that they will provide safe care. We'll be making sure that our pipeline is there to meet the need. And because we want this diverse workforce, this intersectional workforce, it means that our patients will be treated in culturally appropriate environments, and that's really, really key as well. But bottom line is, we want our future workforce to make the right choices for them and to continue making the right choices. And so the bottom line, we want, if we take it back to the workforce strategy that some of you may be aware of, there's a workforce strategy for health and social care. And the ambition of that strategy is to have a motivated, engaged, healthy workforce with the right skills, competence, capability to be able to provide the best services for the people of Wales. And to do that, it starts from your 5-year-olds, because they are our future. So that's what this strategic framework is all about. We are now trying to put together the actions that will deliver on that framework, and how we work with partners. We're strengthening our work with our careers network, and we'll be using that as a really key a really key vehicle to work with partners, and then again with the CDI, which we hope to be taking a much more active part in than we have over the last couple of years. So thank you, Carolyn, for the invitation. I did want to, a big part of this is that we wanted to just share our update on Careersville, and it's just coincidence, I think, that we had Career City as well, and because it's you'll be able to see that there's some real opportunity here on the two. We launched Careersville during COVID, I think it was, wasn't it, Sue? It feels so long ago. And I had this mad idea and said, this is what's in my head, this is the picture. And we had someone in our team who actually managed to get it out of my head into paper, and she almost got it bang on. And then our digital team took it and really made it live. And in October 22, they upgraded it. So this is Careersville 3D. And I think I'm going to hand over to Sue now to share. Apologies, I do need to leave at 4, but I'm hoping to be, I'm sure we won't take that long anyway with questions, but just so if I do disappear, you know where I am. Thank you. Do I need to stop sharing my screen?
You know, you have stopped sharing already. Yes. And Sue, do you need that video ready shortly? Would you like to make sure you let her know? Yeah, great.
Thank you very much. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so thank you ever so much, Angie. So my name is Sue Bracegirdle. I'm the Future Workforce Manager, and obviously I work in Angie's team. So our remit in the Future Workforce team is to support the attraction and retention of the future NHS Wales workforce. We promote careers in healthcare to ensure opportunities are available to all. We also support people with valuable skills and experiences and who are underrepresented in our workforce to pursue a career, you know, within the NHS Wales. So we try and do this in lots of different ways. I'll just say very quickly what kind of things we do. So we raise awareness and promotion of knowledge and understanding of the wide variety of job roles, professions and employment opportunities we have within NHS Wales. We design content and resources to raise the profile and increase the attractiveness of working in NHS Wales to those who are seeking to start their career, or maybe those who are seeking to make a conscious choice to restart their career, perhaps later on in life. We also showcase the NHS as a great place to work and as a welcoming and inclusive employer to all. We do this by including content such as blogs and videos from real people working in the workforce today as we speak. We work closely with partners and stakeholders to provide age-appropriate and timely information on the various routes into the NHS. We include information about apprenticeships, part-time study, degrees and on-the-job training, and we also offer ways to be able to fund the training and the opportunities that we do offer across Wales. So as a result of numerous engagement events across the whole of Wales, we discovered that people of all ages find thinking about their career options a very daunting process, and I remember it well, even though it's a very long time ago. So we wanted to make information as easy to access as possible. We wanted to give people an insight into what it's really like to work within the NHS and the wider health and care services in Wales. We felt that the best way to do this was to hear from people who are actually doing the job day in, day out, which is our amazing current workforce. People that we engaged with told us that as well as having information about the amazing roles, they wanted more than that, really. They wanted support, they wanted guidance, they want actually practical tips on how to get into these roles. And this is something that we as a team are passionate about, supporting people, the right people, into the right roles. So as Angie mentioned, there are 350 different and varied roles available. And obviously, healthcare has something to offer everyone at whatever stage in their career they are. By all the engagement events that we were doing, we discovered a lot of really useful information, you know, how people see us, how much they know about us. And obviously, there was a lot of myths around working for the NHS. Many people assuming you needed to go to university, and many misconceptions about the roles and actually what was involved with the different roles. So obviously, as you can imagine, our role is very important. We support our colleagues across NHS Wales in lots and lots of different projects, including widening access. But today I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our interactive bilingual platform, Careersville, if that's okay. So it's a free-to-use platform. It's available to learners, teachers, parents, guardians, careers advisors, career changers, anybody really who is involved in careers education and guidance. It houses different elements of health and care delivery and the associated careers available. So at the moment, we have 9 professional areas on Careersville. We have healthcare science, nursing, medicine, pharmacy, social care and childcare, eye care, dental, and the mental health. We also have plans for non-clinical buildings around digital and finance careers, and these will probably be added towards the end of the year. So the development of Careersville is based on statistics, intelligence, and labour market information. And this is provided by our colleagues all across Wales, which we then utilise to develop our work programme. And for example, we target those in the population perhaps who have never considered NHS Wales as an employer of choice, perhaps don't see themselves reflected in the current makeup of our workforce. So our targeted approaches in tracking these pockets of the population involves us going into communities, engaging with individuals, so we can identify and help them to overcome barriers to education, employment, or training. But I think the best way to introduce Careersville is to take you on a tour around the digital village. So I don't know, Georgia, if you would be able to share the video, please, with the sound on. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Sue. Georgia's waving her magic tech wand, and here we go.
Oh, thank you, Georgia.
Two seconds, sorry, it's now saying that it can't load. Just give me a minute just to get this reloaded.
Of course it is. While you're doing that, can I ask a quick question? Because I know that NHS is the biggest employer in the UK. How many people do you employ in Wales?
About 100,000. It's about 100,000 whole-time equivalent, so it's actually a little bit more than that, give or take. It's something like 90 something, and it's about 110 in reality.
Wow. So I live in Ceredigion, which has got 7% of the workforce, according to Stephen's presentation. No, was it Stephen's? No, sorry, it was Chris, wasn't it? So you employ more people than live in my county, which is about 70,000. That's an interesting way of looking at the world. Right, I think we're ready now. Are you okay there? Everybody all right?
Yes, looks great.
Over to you, sir.
Introducing our new version of Careersville. Welcome to Careersville. Now in 3D. Where you can explore many of the 350 careers within NHS Wales. Each building is packed full of resources including videos, blogs, infographics, PDFs and more. Visit the pharmacy building or medicine. The Skills Library or the Mental Health Building and Community Garden. Maternity and neonatal, dental or healthcare science. Just click on any building to visit. Click on screens inside to view videos and introductions, click on documents to read them, and ride the lift to find out about careers on other floors. And how about the HEIW cinema, social care and childcare, nursing or eye care? And last but not least, allied health professionals. Careersville is ever expanding to include more buildings and resources. Discover not only information about the host of career choices, but also loads of other helpful resources such as writing your personal profile or CV, interview skills and avenues into NHS Wales including apprenticeships and how to access courses. What are you waiting for? Find your new and rewarding career today.
Thank you. So that's just the introduction really to the platform. So as well as professional buildings, we have wider careers resources, and these are housed in the Skills Library. So we have a series called Be the Best You Can Be, which is videos on interviews, university and job application tips. Within the Skills Library, we have a Cornel Cymraeg, which is Welsh Corner, which showcases the value of speaking Welsh in health and care at all proficiency levels. For the original launch, which was back in 2021, Tregyrfa, which is the Welsh platform, accounted for 27.7% of the total views received in the first week, which dramatically exceeded our expectations. We also have a HEIW cinema, which hosts live events. So again, including presentations around the different professions. We have had presentations from UCAS, admissions tutors, as well as head of schools from across all the universities. All the live events are recorded and they're free to access at any time. On the day of the launch of the 3D Careersville on October 18th, on the day and the day after, we had 13,559 total site page visits. So basically by that we mean different activity on the site. So people had been visiting buildings, reading blogs or watching videos. So that was very promising as well. So as well as collaborative working with colleagues around Wales to produce blogs and videos, we align the developments of Careersville to support the strategic frameworks, such as the Nurse Workforce Plan and the Mental Health Workforce Plan. We recently held a students' nursing webinar, supported by Sue Tranca, the Chief Nursing Officer, and Tara Rees, the RCN Nurse of the Year, and together with heads of nursing and students from Welsh universities. The webinar was for anybody really considering nursing as a career, and had lots and lots of really useful tips. We had very good positive feedback, and it's something that we are going to repeat again, probably beginning of the autumn term, when young people are thinking about options, or maybe people are thinking, you know, I need a career change, it's the new year coming up, so perhaps that would be a very good time to do that as well. Also, to support the launch of the Mental Health Workforce Plan, we have a mental health building on Careersville, and this is to promote roles in mental health across the NHS, and hopefully will provide clarity on roles as well as showing career progression. So if it's okay with Georgia, I'd like to take you on a quick tour of the mental health building now, please, if that's okay. Thank you, Georgia.
Welcome to the Careersville 3D platform. Our newest addition to the platform is the Mental Health Building and Community Garden. It is packed full of resources that provide insight into the range of careers available within mental health. Click on the computer screen to read the introduction, which provides information about the diverse career options available within mental health, as well as links to external resources for further information on these roles. Check out the range of blogs where you can read about the personal experiences of NHS Wales staff working in various mental health careers. View the poster to understand the different types of professions available within mental health. There are also multiple videos available offering careers advice and real-life stories from people already working in some of NHS Wales mental health roles. Visit the community garden where you can find out about Silver Cloud, NHS Wales 111 Press 2, the community advice listening line, and read useful tips about dealing with study stress. Also, click here for quick links to overlapping roles such as mental health nursing and some of the allied health professional roles which feature within other buildings on the Careersville platform. If you want to find out more about mental health careers, then click on the mental health building and take steps towards a rewarding career with NHS Wales today.
And then just to conclude, so the development of Careersville is an ongoing process with professional areas and information being continually added. Our aim for Careersville is for it to become an all-age platform and allow visitors to create an avatar who will be able to visit each building and gather resources, experience virtual reality, speak to experts, and gain valuable insights into careers opportunities. Our ultimate aim is for Careersville to become an all-age platform for future and current workforce to access information about everything NHS Wales careers. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you ever so much, Sue. Thank you, Angie. Really interesting to see the two things coming together and how you're attracting through digital. I'm sure there will be questions. Please ask questions. That's what these guys want to hear. I'm going to start you with one, though, just while everybody's thinking. You talked about supporting people to retrain after a career change. And I was just wondering, what's the funding situation like to help people do that? Because I know there was at one point funding for things like training to go into CBT. And how do you go about that work preparation? I'm covering both of you in this question, I think. How do you go about that work preparation to help somebody who is a more mature career changer to adjust and be up to speed quickly?
So if I go to the funding one first, and then I'll hand over to Sue for the second part. So funding is always going to be a tricky one, especially if people are already employed and essentially will have to give up the job they've got, although there are starting to be some dispersed learning and part-time routes available, especially for nursing. In terms of the course fees, the university fees for all health professionals, apart from doctors, are funded. They're fully funded. You do not have to pay the fees, in the sense of you get a bursary for NHS Wales. Bursary, off the top of my head, I think is around about the 9,000 mark. And obviously that helps to pay your fees. And you can also claim the maintenance grant as well, the maintenance allowance, like every other student can. So you get a double whammy. The payback, though, is we want you to work for NHS Wales for 2 years, and then you don't have to pay it back. That's the bursary arrangement. If you are already working in the NHS, that might be an option to follow. Some of the health boards have got special arrangements where they have part-time courses and supported. So they do their current job for 2 days a week, and then they are a student for 3 days a week, and then they come into the bursary, etc., and their salary is paid. So there's quite a few different options. It's quite complex to put into one thing, but I do have an infographic that I can send around to give some ideas, although that one is this week or next week being updated, so I will wait for a fortnight, because there's a bit of extra information that's come in, so we're going to change it. But the infographic is currently on Careersville if you want to have a look at it, and that sets out all the various funding streams.
think what we'll do then, Angie, if we may, is when you've got that new one, if you could drop it across to me, I'll put that together with the strategic framework out into the next CDI Cymru Wales newsletter,
Certainly.
and we
That
can
would be
pick up
great.
all our members that way. Yeah, brilliant. So, Sophie, the other part of the question.
Yeah, I think what we found really is sometimes, you know, people are unsure of taking the leap from a career. I've got to say I did. I was a teacher for 35 years. I'm passionate about careers, you know, and I made the leap, and I'm so glad I did, really. I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that everybody knows there are so many more, you know, different routes into careers in NHS. There's so many options, you know. There are benefits working for the NHS that people don't know about, you know, part-time earning. For example, some universities, you know, are trying to encourage people at later life to come into nursing, and they actually have lessons between 9 hours, lectures between 9 and 3, so allowing parents to go early to pick up children. So our job really is to make sure that people know about the amazing opportunities, you know, that are out there for people, and they just need to be brave, you know. We need to give them this information so they can make informed choices. And I think very often it's important to remember that lived experiences are sometimes equally as important. You know, qualifications can be developed in the workplace, can't they? You know, but if you've got passion, if you've got the right values, you know, and you've got experiences of maybe, you know, you can, you know, develop and you can add so much to the workforce as well. So I think, you know, showing people there are routes, it is possible, you know, be brave, do it, because it's definitely worth doing in the end, really. So there are different routes and information on Careersville, which we can help people with, you know.
Thank you, Sue. It's about being brave and having the courage to do it. I think you've convinced us all there with the enthusiasm which both of you spoke. Thank you very much indeed. Any last questions, please, or any questions at all for either the process of going around the research to get that insight and be able to create the framework as a result, or the practicalities of convincing people to come to the biggest employer in Wales? Anybody got a question? Yes, I've got 2 hands at a go now. Marvellous. Thank goodness for that. I'm going to go Alex first, then I'm going to go Jude. Actually, going to go Julian. You're unmuted, then I'll go Alex.
Okay. Hi, yeah, it's a great resource. I'm just wondering how you market that and how you attract people to it.
Yes, well, we do have we have a network. So we have a careers, health and care careers network. So we do have all the health boards, all our partners, universities, and we meet them on a regular basis. But we also have a fantastic mailing list. So we involve all educational establishments, you know, PIU, special schools, FE colleges, schools. So we do keep regular contact with them, and we do try and promote any new material that we have. We do a lot on social media. You know, we have an events calendar, so we do support Careers Wales all over Wales when we can. I think what people want is, you know, they want a fast bits of information. If they're sitting on a train journey, they want to be able to access it on their phone, you know. So what we do really is we signpost people, we provide information for people to make informed decisions. You know, I think that's our job, and the more we can spread the word, really, the better. You know, so if any partners would like to share Careersville, then we'd like to, really.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Now, where's she gone? Alex, you've moved again on my screen. It's like playing Smack the Rat, this game, isn't it? Over to you.
Hi, yeah, really enjoyed it, and thanks for the invite. I think I'll be coming instead of Sue Moss in the future. So just so everybody knows, I co-manage the Careers Employability Service at Bangor University. And I'm really interested that the two of you want to collaborate, and I just wanted to highlight that we do, well, we have an undergraduate internship fund. I've introduced industry partners, and I had a meeting with Digital Healthcare Wales, and they're going to submit a proposal, and I just wondered if you'd be interested in sort of having an undergrad to work on maybe some collaboration or scoping amongst your projects. But also, as universities in Wales and across the UK, they're really starting to brand out graduate attributes, and I wondered, are any of you actually starting to incorporate that into your workforce planning and badging any of your careers with those skills? Because as an employer engagement, that's part of my process to feed back to the working group. And I don't think employers are quite aware that graduate attributes is the new trend within HE.
I have been, sorry, I'm just going to say, I did take part in the Bangor University Employment Fair with Gwen Llia, and I did actually a presentation about the NHS opportunities, about the STP, about the Finance Academy, about our graduate scheme. And I did mention a lot about, you know, skills, qualities, what we were looking for. But yes, it would be great if we could have a catch up, Alex, if you want.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant if we could. That'd be fantastic.
I at this point suggest that if you are happy to share your email addresses, just in case when we go to breakout rooms, you're not in the place of the people you want to talk to, the chat function is there for that. So please do share connections. That's what this is about, making those connections that makes a difference. Thank you. Did that give you the answer you wanted, Alex? Everybody happy on that one? Sue's looking like she's okay. Good. Marvellous. Any other questions? I've had two. Come on, make it three. Somebody ask a question. I'm sure there's a good one lurking there. Be shy. We're not that sort of forum, I hope. Any other last questions? A bit of head scratching going on with David. I was trying to think of a question. Any other questions at all? If not, oh yeah, Angie's got to go now. Thank you ever so much, Angie, for coming. I know you are pushed from pillar to post, but I hope you find some peace with your music and also your sewing bee stuff. Enjoy. Just make sure you've got another shed in the garden for all the bits you keep buying. Good luck with it, and I hope it all went well today. Thanks ever so much for coming.
Thank you very much for the invite, and look forward to coming to the next one, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do. You are here and we're here to support you. Give us a shout. We're here all the time to support. Thank you. Look after yourself.
Thank you very much.
So, any other questions for Sue, or are we going to say Sue can now just relax a bit while we go into the breakout sessions? Any last questions? I'm just going to share the agenda so everybody can see where we are. So we're actually just finishing off this bit. Any last questions at all? I can't see any other hands going up, so I think we're probably okay. In which case, it's breakout room time. Now, because we are a beautifully formed but not huge number, I'm going to suggest that probably 6 is probably, or 5 or 6 is probably about right for breakout rooms to give people a decent chance for conversation over the next 20 minutes or so before we then come back to plenary. Does that sound about right? Everybody okay with that? I'm seeing some nods. In that case, can we go on that basis, please, Georgie? Can we go for 2 breakout rooms of 6 and an extra one lurking, and then we can have this conversation around how can research help you to identify, navigate, and balance the challenges of remote versus face-to-face guidance. So how do we get at people and how do we engage them? How do we make sure that we're putting the right amount of funding and resource in the right place to make sure that whoever's needs are being met and they're being met in a way that works for them? Big question, I know, but a chance to do some networking and a bit of brainstorming that hopefully each of you will take something back from that will make a difference to the way that you present, promote your offering, and engage whoever it is you have as your client base to make sure they get the career support they need. So if we can split into those breakout rooms, Georgia's going to do a bit of tech magic in the background. Just I'll keep this on screen so that people can see it, but you might just want to take a quick note. And could I ask one person in each group to act as the person who's going to feed back, please? And that won't be me. So in any group I'm in, just so everybody's clear. So if you can just nominate somebody to do the feedback, but make yourselves at home, have a conversation, make some connections, and let's have a good conversation that we can share afterwards to understand how we can use research as a tool to help us make sure we're doing the right things. So, Georgia, how are you doing there? Brilliant. So we'll see you the other side shortly. So welcome back, Georgia. Could you ping everybody else back into from their breakout rooms, please? Oh, closing in 56 seconds. Good. So we've got an extra minute for everybody to be comfortable. If so, how have you enjoyed your first visit to Wales? Are you there, or are you having to deal with some local thing with a young person? Because I know that's one of the things you have to grapple with sometimes during your working hours. Not sure she's there at the moment, so I might be talking to myself. Wouldn't be the first time in my life. Right. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you found it a useful session. We asked some thorny questions, some difficult questions sometimes, just to get people thinking and talking and connecting. And I hope that NHS connection helps as well, Andrea. Does that help you?
Yes, I work with Angie
Good.
quite regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, she seemed to be keen to sort of nudge that one along today, so I thought you probably did. So Chris is back in the room. Oh yes, everybody's coming back in. Good. That's nice to see people coming back. We were sitting here for a minute going, is everybody still there? Yes, they are. We've lost a few, as always happens. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to go to somebody from each of the two groups just to feed back. So I don't know who wants to kick off first. Maybe group 2, because I was sitting in group 1. So group 2, who was your person feeding back?
That would be me.
David, carry on.
Yeah, we had a good bit of discussion. We kind of posed whether we stick specifically to the question or go broad, and we started off sticking specifically to the question, then going broader. So that'll probably come as no surprise. But no, we had a bit of a conversation about the research and the fact that there's more research required around different ways of gaining support. I think broadly speaking, what we were talking about was you need both face-to-face personal careers guidance, the kind of the coaching element, and you need supporting activities, using, as we saw today, digital tools to help do self-exploration, or maybe be guided and to follow on with activities, but also group working potentially, and a lot of other work, and then also kind of that career coaching, the guidance, conversations to help you really work through what that means for you personally. There was a comment about, but that's not just the purvey of the careers team. Every teacher should be a careers teacher, so it should be kind of a whole school, whole organization approach to be in that, because otherwise you've got this lone voice trying to educate young people into the roles that they could go into, whereas actually it's part of something everyone should do. We got on the subject of the nuclear power station and saying, that while that's a good thing, we've got to make sure the skills are in place for that at the right time, and that it will be a failure if we get to that point and the skills aren't there. And that needs communication of what's happening, when it's happening, what skills are likely to be needed, the LMI and how that's going to affect it. Talking about the fact that isn't just about ramping up the provision in some areas, but actually potentially producing new courses specific to that. And Chris was giving an example where that happened in the past. And then the back end of it, we were just talking about the fact that, okay, what else do you need to include in the research, and the fact that parents and families, as well as teachers, have a huge influence. So it's how we educate parents as well, that they need to be part of this conversation, and that we need to make sure kind of outdated views are challenged. So for example, that engineering isn't for girls, if a parent's still got that view, or that's still where they're at, is actually tackled, so that when young women are looking at an engineering career, that they're supported in that, rather than maybe having to fight against family prejudice. So that's where we went. Was there anything I missed, Tim?
Nobody's saying anything, so I think you're right there, David. Thank you very much. I have to say, the challenge of getting parents to understand, I spent a couple of years tackling. It needs a lot of resource and money to do it, and it's not really something for a lone practitioner to be battling away against. I think that's the biggest challenge of all in many ways, because we can get them to understand careers, we could get them to understand the career development profession and support us rather than knock us quite often. But thank you for that, some really rich content there. Andrea, do you want to feed back for our group? We didn't talk about nuclear, did we? We
No, we
talked about lots of other things, though.
No, we didn't. So we talked about, similarly to David's group, about the fact that there's a role for both types, both face-to-face and virtual guidance, and that perhaps the role for research is in identifying when each type is appropriate over that journey, if you like. We felt that impact was the most important thing, and that there's potentially a role for research in convincing customers, stakeholders, partners of the impact of virtual and digital guidance. I talked about the role of my team. I lead the employer engagement work in Careers Wales, and we have feedback on our virtual employer engagement from teachers and from learners, and that feedback is quite interesting in that teachers always feedback that they are very much in favour of virtual employer engagement, and learners less so, possibly because it's the teacher that's involved and responsible for planning and the logistics of organising those sorts of interventions, and the learners are obviously the ultimate recipients of them. Oh gosh, Carolyn, Stephen, please chip in.
Well, I think you've done a very good job, actually, of
Yeah,
feeding
great
back on the
job.
fact that it was about the cycle, where is it needed, and how do we use it to demonstrate impact so we can change the conversation around it and get people the help they need. Do you agree, Stephen? Anything particular? You talked about technology, didn't you? And how that can come in at certain stages of that cycle to take the burden off the advisor at work.
Like I think you said, Caroline, that about 40% of time is spent in contact with clients, and so if the thrust of digital is focused on, you know, how can we increase that to 70 or 80%? You know, how can we shift all the admin or the routine tasks, you know, using automation, using digital tech, using signposting to digital resources? That would be handy.
As long as we keep the connection with the person along the way, I think Andrew and I were both saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that intrinsic motivation and support. It's the balance, isn't it?
Yes.
It's about understanding the black art and knowing where the balance tips in the favour of person rather than bit of technology to inform and educate. I hope thank you for that. I thank you for feeding back, Andrew, and for your comments, Stephen. I hope you've enjoyed that conversation today and have used the chat box to share contact details if you haven't already. It's the easiest way for us not to get into trouble on the GDPR front. So please share email addresses if you choose to. I'm just going to bring us back to the agenda now, just to see where we are, because we are very nearly at the end. We're actually at the point of any other business. So is there anybody has got any other business? Please shout now. Lots of no. Okay, good. In that case, what I'm going to do is just do the last little bit, which is to go to share some notices for the CDI, and also to just get your feedback on the meeting. So the last little bit of notice, because I know David wants to share a little bit of something as well from the work he's been doing. We'll just do some CDI notices. First of all, we talked about technology just there. There are some events coming up which are all available, and George is going to pop the link into the chat box for me. AI for career practitioners, AI-powered career guidance and upskilling, and elevate your AI skills, mastering the art of prompts. Those are happening on the 4th of June, 12th of June and 11th of July, respectively. And then picking up on the primary school that Chris was talking about earlier, introducing careers in primary schools, led by Janet College, the famous Janet College, and that's on the 10th of June. All the information available through the training link on our website, which I know Georgia will share if she hasn't already. I can't see the chat bot at the moment. Two other events just to shout out about. I've already mentioned Actually, no, let me do this one first. We've got IFSA on the call. She runs a monthly EDI session for people to come and talk about a particular topic each time. The next one is on gender, and after that is a whole range that cover religion, sexuality, sexual identity, socio-economic status, intersectionality, trauma-based career counselling. Let's book onto that one, actually. I booked on some others already, missed that one. Age and addressing ageism, menopause, review and reflect, and then a strategy re-evaluation between now and March next year. So information again on the CDI training and events page. I would just like to wish Careers Wales all the very best, not that I'm partisan at all, for the UK Career Development Awards on the 18th of June in Derby at the Museum of Making. We're shortlisted, I say we, the Welsh are shortlisted on 3. We've got Anne-Marie Wills from Careers Wales Public Sector Career Development Professional of the Year, and Mark Owen representing Careers Wales for 2 awards, one to do with Career City you've seen today, and the other for innovative employer engagement. So my fingers are firmly crossed there'll be at least one thing coming back to Wales. And then the next day after that, there is the Careers Leaders Conference taking place at Derby Uni as well. So events flagged up there. That's my bit of admin done. David, I'm sure you want to do a little bit around what you've been up to.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and I can't join Carolyn in saying good luck to Careers Wales because I have to be neutral across everybody, but I wish everyone all the best of luck for the awards.
Go on, you could. Just today.
I'm going to have to go around everybody else and do exactly the same thing. But excellent nominations from Wales, so that's really good to see. Yeah, just very quickly, I was at the House of Parliament last Wednesday for 2 different events, one of which quite closely related to the conversation we've just had. Careers Connect, who operate they're based in Liverpool, but they do careers provision across the UK, well, particularly across England. But they did a kind of a consultation looking at the evidence for the impact of career development. So what evidence there is and what we need to do to build that evidence. And they came up with a similar conclusion, I think, to some of the conversation today, which is that there's some pretty good evidence around the holistic impact. So, you get a return on investment, it does help people overall, but where there are gaps are, but what kind of career development interactions have the most impact? What does best practice look like in individual areas? And is there actual evidence around some of that? So kind of you can quantify it, because that will help with the argument of, yes, careers is important. We all get that, and we can kind of pretty much prove that. But what kind of careers interactions are needed? So it's a really good session. There's 3 members of the House of Lords there, some representatives across the profession, and that'll carry on. And that links in, some of their output linked in really nicely to the bits of Stephen's work he didn't talk about today, which is, first of all, he's done interviews with 10 kind of careers research key people around the country to get their view of the state of research, and that'll be coming out as a paper at some point. That's currently with me to comment on, so that's what's holding it up. Sorry, Stephen. But the other thing is he's starting work with a couple of other people on a careers directory, so careers research directory for the CDR website. So we won't hold all the research on our website, but our goal is, how do we make it really accessible to everybody so that researchers always find research, but practitioners and policymakers tend to find it harder to navigate all the research. So what Stephen's looking at is, how do we bring something together that shows, okay, if you're looking for research on these topics, here's where it is, here's how to find it, here are summaries to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. So that was a really, really useful flow on from that. And then finally, there was the Skills Commission launched their report. I was a commissioner on that, and that's looking at the skills system for 2030, how it needs to be. And again, we had this in our breakout room, how it needs to be more flexible, more dynamic, and support it. So that's skills overall. And my big argument as a commissioner on it was, yes, but you've got to get the individual to engage with the skills system. Otherwise, there's no point having a skills system. And careers is in an absolutely perfect position to play that role of, how do you help people, particularly further from the world of work, to overcome barriers and to be confident and in engaging with the skills system and progressing in their career, whether that's starting work or progressing in work or changing work, whatever their transition is. So really, really powerful kind of piece of work come out of that. Quite a lot of careers coverage within the skills piece. So really pleased about that. And while the work itself was focused on England, the principles kind of broadly go across. It's not specific to the England system. It's a pretty good piece of work, kind of trying to raise the profile of careers and skills overall. So thank you, Carolyn. Just wanted to kind of flag those.
Thank you. Really, really interesting stuff there. Thanks, David. We are nearly finished. I'm going to do two things. That's it. Then we are done. One is to say the next meeting is provisionally 16th of October, Wednesday, the 16th of October, 2 to 4:30. Unless anybody's got any good reason why it shouldn't be that day. It's not half term. It was clashing with the CDI event, which is why I moved it on one day. But I just wanted to see if anybody's got any knowledge of any major event that's happening that day that will prevent, like, it's not Learning in Work Week, for instance, which nobody mentioned last time, which is why we've got fewer people than normal, I think, today. But if you do have any objections to the 16th of October, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be doing the autumn CDI Cymru Wales Forum on that date. And that leads me to one final thing, which before I go to the evaluation piece, which I have to do, is just to say thank you ever so much to our speakers today. You've done a sterling job, Stephen. That's really helped us understand how CDI is flying the flag for the profession and how we're going to be able to use that as practitioners. So thank you for that. Thank you to Chris for dazzling us with some tech that will really engage primary schools and gives us a sense of hope that they will understand careers from a very early age and make better decisions than some of the previous generations have been able to do. And thank you to Angie. Could you pass that on in her absence, please, Sue? And to yourself for sharing all the stuff that the largest employer in Wales is doing to help people find careers across the 350 professions that you and opportunities that you have. So thank you to everybody for coming today, for sharing so freely, taking part. I hope you found it a useful session. We will share the recording and the minutes. Thank you to Liz for doing those for us. Really helpful, because it gives us something that we can send to others so they come and start to talk about careers as well. And this is all part of breaking down the barrier and resistance to people when they hear the word careers. It creates a bit of a funny reaction in people sometimes, as those of us in the profession will know. I'm a careers advisor. Oh, really? And so we're trying to break down those barriers through the forum as well. So please share that. And my final thank you is to Georgia, as Sue has also done, to say thank you for your tech support. Well done on your maiden visit, both for Wales and for supporting one of these types of events. I hope you've enjoyed it too. So my final thing to do now is just to share some very quick feedback. If you can go to menti.com, and you will need this code. Those of you who normally come to the forum will know that we do this. A quick visit to menti.com and the code 79901067, and that will be popping into the chat if it's not there already. Nice to see so many email addresses being shared there. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Julian. Nice to see you on your first visit. It's always nice when somebody says, I've enjoyed that. And I've had a couple of comments about, oh, yeah, we'll be back again. That's what we want to do. We're trying to do stuff that's useful, that makes a difference here. So the first question then is, here we are. What did you like or find useful? Your starter for 10. Quick answers would be great, because then we can use that to help shape future meetings. What did you like or find useful? I can't believe we've overrun. I don't know how that's happened. I'm glad the presentation has gone well. Brilliant. Speakers, hats off. I think it's supposed to say chef's kiss or something, aren't I? Heard the other day somebody said, oh, chef's kiss. I went, oh, yeah, okay. So NHS information useful. Great stuff. Speakers. Oh, speakers are getting a round of applause. Well done, speakers. It's the value you bring is enormous, and it means, and also it's in our laps, isn't it? Because we're here, we don't have to travel to it, which is why we've stayed virtual ever since the pandemic ended. So anything else anybody wants to share is welcome there. Breakout room. Good. I'm glad the breakout room is useful. If there's anything you want to share about breakout rooms and how we could use them differently, please, I am very much open to ideas. We want to make sure this works for you. Some great innovations. Absolutely. Anything else that we want to add in here? Your last sort of minute to do that before I go on to the next one. Seeing anything else pop up in here? So
I put NHS information there. I didn't think it was appropriate for me to write all presentations.
You can add something, other presentations by all means. Chris is anonymous. I've got no idea who's writing what, so right away. Okay, thank you for your honesty. Let me move on to the next one, which is what was missing. What were you missing today, apart from real Welsh cakes? That's the only downside of a virtual meeting, isn't it? And there's not the minute round the water cooler having the cup of coffee. But we try to do that through the breakout rooms. Brilliant. Nothing. I like that answer. Anybody else got any comments about things that we're missing? Because we want to make sure we pick up the good, the bad, and the ugly as well. Nothing coming up on here. I think we've got 2 nothings. Excellent. Okay. 3 nothings. Am I seeing a trend here? How many answers does it take to make a trend? Right, so we've got 4 nothings. I'm going to move on then. Save you some more time. So what would you do differently as a result of this meeting? So what will you do differently as a result of this meeting? Because it's great that we've had 2.5 hours together, but if it doesn't lead to anything, then it's been jolly good fun, but not really very impactful. And from our breakout room, the word impact resonated and rang loudly around. So collaboration is something that you're going to do differently as a result of this. More breakout rooms, bit more interaction, okay? So that's what you're going to do differently as a result of this meeting. You're going to do more in breakout rooms. We can do some more breakout rooms next time. What else? As a result of this meeting, what other things are you going to take from it that you're going to be able to bring into your own work or practice, or take from this session and use somehow? More interaction. Yeah, it's the interaction is the important bit, isn't it? Please speak. When somebody says you've got a question, please ask them. It really does help engage and get really rich themes out. Help the thinking. Good. How's it going to help your thinking? God, I'm going into coach mode. Stop it. Right, stick in facilitator mode here for a minute. More research. Yes, that'll make some people smile as well. So more research. Okay, I'm going to leave you thinking on that one. And just to take you to the end of this and say, I'll leave this open actually. So you should be able to still keep adding things. But I just wanted to say a very big and thank you very much indeed to everybody this afternoon. Have a lovely summer if it ever returns after the early appearance of autumn today. And we'll see you in October and hopefully in June if you're at the Credo Awards. I will just stick up one last slide actually, which is my contact details in case anybody wants to get in touch. And there's also some links on there which you can see for things like how to become a member. Hang on, my slides have just whizzed around my screen. So my contact details were there. Hold on. The joys of tech. It was all going so well. Let's just go to that last one. There we go. Contact details are there. If you've got any questions, if there's anything we can do as an institute to help, you know where I am. Please get in touch. You are knocking on a very, very open door. In fact, there isn't a door. It's just a wide open gap. So please get in touch, keep in touch. And I wish you a really lovely summer on behalf of Dave and myself. And best wishes to everybody. Have a great summer.